Hey everyone. Recently I did an event where I was talking about spellcrafting, and I'm always one of those people who likes to, get audience participation and have questions, open dialogue, and let that sort of guide. I try and always have something planned, but I do like people getting out of an event what they want. So in this particular event, we sort of veered into the area of candle magic and fire magic, and I was really, it's something that I really sort of enjoy talking about because it's something that I don't think the traditional, the core traditions of witchcraft surrounding it are always necessarily fairly represented. So I thought, why not also make that a YouTube video? Obviously, the content of that class is for now honoured for those ticket holders. I'm not repeating the whole class here, but a topic was brought up, and I thought, well, it was outside of the planned, subject matter. So I sort of thought, well, other people might also find it interesting. So I thought, well, why not? Let's go for it. So when I talk about the word tradition, I'm talking about core witchcraft traditions. I'm not talking about like named traditions like Gardnerian, Alexandrian, Blue Star, fairy craft, and everything else. Women Brotherhood and the Minoan Sisterhood. I'm not talking about those things. I see those as sort of they are named traditions, is what I would call them, versus the traditions of witchcraft. In other words, like the sort of the like when we talk about like traditional witchcraft, that's really what we mean. We're leaning into the core traditions or principles, teachings of witchcraft. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about traditionals or traditionally. Or if I ever say that on this channel, that's really what I mean. So when it comes to candles, it's just an extension of and an evolution of fire magic. So I've got a selection of candles. I don't do a lot of candle burning. In fact, I'm very conscious about my carbon footprint with my craft. So I don't burn really anything as part of my craft. I really don't. That said, of course, there's the element of, sometimes some things, if you follow traditions, then it's somewhat unavoidable. But I got some candles here. I had to dig them out at the back of a cupboard because they really aren't used. I do have a selection of different colour candles, but I just grabbed some at random and thought, right, well, let's have a look at them and then discuss the core traditions around them. So we've got, is it showing up as purple on this camera? I'm not sure. But we've got purple one. So people would generally say purple is about domination, power, spirituality, things like that. Then we have a black one. And people would say black is for like binding, banishing, releasing, all that kind of stuff. Got with a nice pink one. I don't think that how nice that pink is coming up on this camera, but it's a really nice pink colour actually. So people say this is for like love, romance. Sometimes people might say passion, some argue that's more red. If you're thinking like, Craig, I don't need candle colour correspondence, that's not where I'm going with this video. So yeah, don't think, oh yeah, click off. I don't need someone explaining to me all these different candle colours. I'm doing this to make a point. And then you have your white candle, which people will say is for purity, serenity, peace, and also a substitute for any other candle colour. And that is where I'm going with this point. Any other candle colour. There is a reason for that idea, and the reason is this. All of these can be used for exactly the same purposes, exactly identical. If I wanted to bring love, romance into my life, but all I had was this black candle, or all I had was this purple candle, or I wanted to curse someone and all I could get was this pink candle, I could make it work. And I could make it work because anybody can make it work, because traditionally the colour of the candle does not matter. It is an irrelevant thing. So there's two main influences. I'm going to keep the white one actually for after, because I'm going to need some after for demonstrating. So I grabbed the white one, by the way, because it was just closest when I put it down. It was in reach. Not because I need a white candle for. Actually, I'm going to reach even further just to prove my point. Right, we're going to use the purple one later. I don't want it to then be, oh, you're using the white one for anything, when that's like literally not the point I'm making. So, yeah, they can be used for anything. The reason that we got candle colours come in is through two different avenues. The first is that the first would be that in Britain it got assimilated from the Grimoire traditions, because Grimoire traditions have planetary correspondence, so they started incorporating these different coloured candles. But that isn't why we're using different coloured candles today in witchcraft. And if you've been seeing witchcraft books, you don't see it based on planetary correspondence. You see it as the magic that you're intending to work. Like love, you're not saying I'm getting. Oh, you're not saying like, oh, I want to bring in love, so I'm getting a green candle for Venus. That is not what people are saying. They're saying like a red candle, a pink candle. No one's going for that green candle for love and passion and romance. So it isn't. It sort of came in that way, like through the back door, through ceremonial magic and the trappings of ceremonial magic, sort of assimilating in with witchcraft to make it a little more what Doreen Valiente referred to as churchianity. We almost got this really like churchy vibe, and it came out of the back of these grimoires being very Abrahamic in their structure. And so we don't realize actually a lot of our witchcraft is very it's almost very Roman Catholic in a way. So yeah, there's that component. That's how the sort of the discussion first started. But the way that the literature is written today is more from the it's drawn from Latin American spaces. So if you went into a botanica, for example, you would find these different coloured candles. They're usually like glass encased candles, but sometimes they're not. They'll just be like the candles that I'm showing you, or any other kind of candle. And they do go based on the colour association. People say that it's the same in hoodoo, but if you actually speak to people who were raised in those cultures and spaces, they actually have, which surprised me actually, I will say, that just like us here in Britain and our witchcraft, it's not a thing. It is not, for different reasons, it's not a thing, but matching colour to intent isn't part of their core traditions, just like it isn't part of ours. I'm not from the African traditional religions and African traditional spirituality and magic, so I'm not going to speak on those spaces. There are plenty of people who are, and that are, you have to look for it, but there are those who are making the very clear distinction that what happens in Latin American spaces and what you would find from traditional African spirituality, there is a difference. So if you find someone saying that kind of message, then you know that you're getting that core tradition information. I'm speaking from this space, the space that I know, the space that I am in and practice, and the cultural influences that come from that are my own culture. So I'm not intending to speak on behalf of other people here. I'm going to give the reasons for why it doesn't matter for witchcraft. And the reason is that fire magic began as how do I say it? It was like hearthside magic. So it was like you lit the fire in your home, you lit a bonfire outside, and you worked magic with that fire. So the candles just came to replace those. It was just a way of getting a flame into your working, because people weren't having like, chopping wood and putting them in their house fires. They had like gas fires. So it's like the need for working fire had to change, and it was convenient for candles. You think about someone who's being tried in the witchcraft period, or even later than that, and they're going to these people for healings and for money and for love and things like that, and they lit a candle, and they did light candles, we know that. They were stocking like purple candle and brown candle and blue candle, in case, they didn't have these like 700 different candles in the cottage that was barely keeping the roof on, and it was being rethatched because they'd done a good service for the guy who does the thatch roofing and things like that, right? I mean, there's actual pictures, actual photographs as well of witches where their houses have like literally been crumbling down around them, and you think that they're like buying these sort of what would have at that time period been very exotic candles, because the wax had been dyed in somewhere. Get real. These people were like, hand to mouth, and just getting by, and then you think they're buying these really expensive candles, and you've got to think like, even like a really tall candle was like something that the church could only afford. So it's like they're not getting these sort of, these are traditional ideas. There are very, very few instances where specific colours and candles do have ties to witchcraft. I do have to say that, because it's a fact. But I'm not going to divulge too much, but they are to do with initiatory rites, and that's it. But for your basic spells, they're not doing that. So the way I was taught to work candles, because we also dress candles like we're Latin American as well, and then calling it traditional witchcraft, and and pretending it's our culture when it isn't, and we're reading the wax, which people, again, if you speak to, and this is information I've got from people who know what they're talking about, who grew up in the African traditional religions and spiritualities, and they say they weren't reading wax. I'll actually tell you why the candle thing is, because they was using lamps. They were using like these little clay dishes with a wick and some oil, and then they were like putting things into the oil, and then they were burning it. So that is why, because they weren't using candles. They were using a clay pot with oil in it and a wick. So these lamps didn't have colours, so that's why they don't have colours. And it's also why wax reading is not a thing. Wax reading comes to us from Germanic spaces, not from African spaces. So I'm not saying you can't read wax and things like that, but if you want to follow core traditions, it's always about the fire. It's not about the wax. That said, with candles, the way I was taught to work these was that you do it elementally. So you mix salt and water together, and then you light incense. There's two different interpretations of the components, but it's always the same. So first you use salt water, and you effectively like you wipe it on the candle while speaking your intention. You don't get it on this pair, like just the initial pair and the wick, because you want the thing to lie. You don't want to be dosing it out with water. But you're going to anoint like your fingers, like get them wet, and then you're going to work from the top to the bottom. The top I'm calling the wick, the bottom I'm calling the pair that will come in the candlestick, right? So you go from top to bottom for anything that you want to draw in or manifest, and you work from the bottom to the top for anything that you want to get rid of. Okay? It's the same with if you want to scratch anything into the wax. You write it down. So you can literally have it like this. I'm doing this for your angle. So if you're writing from left to right, you're going to have your wick on your left, and you're going to just write across your intent, or whatever it is, your target's name, whatever. Then you can roll it a little, like on the typewriter, they would write the whole thing and then go, and then it would roll slightly to move the sheet of paper up so you could type the next line. It's pretty much that. So you're going to write across it, And then when you get to the end, you're just going to sort of roll it so you can write the next line underneath it. If you need to go all the way around, do so. And then the other way, so from the bottom to the top, if it's things you want to get rid of. Now, you can also overlap. So you could write things that you want and then turn the candle and then write everything that you want to sort of neutralize or mitigate. So let's say you was, you got this purple candle and we want money, right? So you're going to put all your money intention into this, carved in, and then you might do the other way to mitigate the ways that you don't want to get that money. So like you don't, and this is magic isn't affirmations. Let's be clear. This whole the secret, the universe doesn't understand. No, forget it. You can say like, not through inheritance, not through a death, not through accident, because like sometimes like you could like lose like a limb and get a payout. You don't want that type of stuff. So you mitigate. You could even just say not through harm, not through death, going this way. Or, well, actually, you wouldn't say not, because things you're thinking. So your mitigation would be like harm, death, because they're the things that you don't want, and you'd be focusing on the fact that you're writing it from the bottom to the top, because this is these are the avenues that you're closing off, that you're banishing, that you're saying are not going to be part of this work. And then from the top to the bottom is everything that you want to draw in. So you can do both. If you're doing both, I would do the top to the bottom information and scratching first, and it doesn't matter if the text overlaps either. If you can avoid it, I personally avoid it. But if you've had to write all the way around the candle and then you want to flip it around and then do your sort of neutralizing of certain avenues, then it doesn't matter if it overlaps. But it's just a very personal thing for me. I try and not, but it doesn't actually matter, and it's not a core tradition that it can't overlap. So I want to make that clear. And then you get your salt water, and if you've got both drawing in and mitigating circumstances, your main goal is to draw something to you, which would be the cash. So you would work from the top to the bottom. Then you'd light your incense, and as the smoke's rising, you would pass it through, and then don't bring it back. So you pass it through, and then move like your arm like way away from the smoke, and then pass it through again. And I just try and rotate it. So I have it divided into like 3 or 4 parts, and I really just try and go through and then roll it. And so I feel like every part of it has been touched by both water and salt, for earth and water. And then the incense can either be fire and earth. So this is where I said there's 2 ways of interpreting this. So you can either treat the incense as fire and air, or you can treat the incense as air, and then when you light it, that is the fire component being added. And if you like that version, you don't actually have to use incense. It's probably the older way of doing it anyway, is the salt and the water on there, and then you would breathe onto it like a cold breath. So really quick, because people sometimes don't know what I mean by a hot and a cold breath. So if you go, it's cold, right? And if you go, it's hot. So a cold breath, down, rotate, down, rotate, down, rotate, down. And just get your breath on that, and then light it, and so that you've got all the elements in there. And then the only thing that's then missing is, because that's all about your intent, is who's the target of the spell. And traditionally you would chuck some type of tag lock into the flame, so you might pull like a hair out of your head and burn it. It doesn't matter if you burn it and then have to like chuck whatever it is into like a pot or something that's nearby, because they still make contact with this flame on this candle, and that's all that matters. That is just allowing this working to read, like, where is this intention going to. So that's pretty much it. And again, the candle doesn't matter. The colour of the candle doesn't matter. So a quick working, actually, I'll tell you, because you don't have to write on these. So let's say we're doing this for, let's say we're using this, just again to prove my point, we're using it for healing, okay? So what you would do is probably a bad one, actually, 'cause I'm going to start with a banishing example, but you know what I mean, the candle colour doesn't matter. So what you do is you don't scratch anything into it, you just put it down, think about the healing, okay? So your salt water, and then like either your incense, and treat that as air and fire. You're gonna light it anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you treat it as air and fire or air, because it doesn't matter. Or you can use your breath and then light it. And then what you do is you can write the name, the date of birth, and even if you want the address of the person that you want to heal, even if that's yourself, onto a piece of paper, and then the thing that you want to remove from them. Be as detailed as you want. So then you light this, you burn the paper, and you put it into something like a cauldron. You know, it doesn't have to be a cauldron, just anything that's fire resistant. So that it's not going to burn. Put it in there, and then when that is completely burnt out, you have a second petition with the person's name on it, and then the type of health that you want them to have, and you put that underneath the candle, or it can be in the candle holder, so it can go into the candle holder, but only when the original thing that you want to get rid of is burned completely away. Then you're going to leave this to burn all the way down. If you have a big candle and it's taking forever, you can blow this out, and then after that initial paper is burnt away and you've got the other one sat under, and I just leave the paper sat under, blow it out. You can blow candles out. It's a myth that it's offensive or it's magic. It doesn't get offended. It's neutral, and it's your intention. So it's your magic. Are you offended by you blowing out a candle? No. So you do that, and then just relight it, and then when the candle's completely burnt down, you can then just do whatever you want with that intention paper afterwards. But the original banishing of the illness, you want to then scatter that off your property. It doesn't matter if it's for somebody else or for you. You want to scatter it off your property, scatter it to the wind, scatter it in the roads. It doesn't matter. So, key points. In core traditions of witchcraft, the colour of the candle does not matter, because it's derived from fire magic ultimately. You can move down to draw in, up to get rid of, or you can use up in a drawing down direction for cancelling avenues that you don't want your magic to manifest through. You dress it with salt water, and then either incense or your breath, light thing, and you need to burn something in it to target your person, or you can do more like target the person and the sickness, like we did in that healing example. If there's any other topics that you'd like to discuss, or if you have any questions regarding fire magic generally, let me know in the comments. Or if there's any other sort of kinds of magic that you'd like to see me discuss, let me know, and I will see what I can do. Also, let me know in the comments if there's any just topics you'd like to see, whether that's us just having discussion points on things, whether it's something a bit more practical like this, where we're discussing things, or whether you'd actually like to actually see something practical, like see me dressing the candle, see me putting the paper, and see me burning something. Give me an idea of what you want as subscribers, because I'm very thankful to my subscribers, and I am going to do my best to get more content out, but I also don't want to be flooding you with content that no one's interested in. So let me know what kind of things you want to see, you want to discuss, and until then, see you in the next video. And this has been a longer video, so thank you if you have watched to the end. Bye.